So Kavanaugh has been confirmed and is now on the Supreme Court. And of course, we have articles, especially by places like Huffington Post, saying that women let out a primal scream over Brett Kavanaugh and it didn't matter. Somehow, Republican men assumed the mantle of victimhood. Now, the whole reason I picked this article to go through is because they have completely missed the point. Because I do not care. Everything this article is saying, I don't care. And not that many people care, honestly. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want people to be aware why they're missing the point. Why, these articles are pointless. Why these articles make all these assumptions that just are factually inaccurate. So they are completely missing the point of everything that's going on right now. And the biggest thing is you can see just from the article, it's like, oh, women screamed and nobody cared. It's like, yeah, because a scream is not an argument. A scream is not truth. A scream is not anything. It's just emotion. And when it comes to people just spewing out their emotions about things without any actual arguments, it's like, I'm sorry, I don't care. It's like, why'd you do that? Well, I felt bad. Or I felt angry. Or it's like, I don't care. If all I care about is the truth. All I care about is arguments and good reasoned arguments. If you're going to make a claim, back it up with something. If you're going to just say you're angry and nobody cares, it's like, yeah, you just answered your own question right there. You're angry, and that's it. And that's why honestly, I think all of these protests going on at the Supreme Court, I'm kind of glad they're happening. I am a bit concerned that people might go a bit too far right because of that, but honestly, the protests are pushing things to the right, because when I watched the Kavanaugh hearings, when I watched what was going on, it's like there were people barging into the room and screaming about Kavanaugh. And this was just in the first 10 minutes of day one. People were barging into the room and screaming. And I'm wondering, who agrees with you? Who looks at that and says, you changed my mind? I don't think anyone. So I'm glad they're still happening. In a sense, because it's like, yeah, you're just destroying your own argument right there. It's like rage is not convincing. Anger and emotion is not convincing. Passion is convincing, but not unless it's backed by arguments and truth. So we'll just go through this article quick. I'm trying to shorten the length of my videos, so we'll try to go through this as quickly as possible. I'll zoom in here. She says, my body is on fire. The message blinked onto my phone in the middle of Christine Blasey Ford's testimony before Senate Judiciary Committee last week. It came from a rape survivor I interviewed during the 2016 election season when women were literally becoming ill. Again, it's saying women were having to, seek mental health counseling because they were watching politics on TV. And then there we go, right there. I don't care. Women are becoming ill. Okay, that's your problem. That's not a sign that things are bad. That's a sign that you have problems that you haven't dealt with. That's the thing. It's I genuinely feel bad for a lot of these people. But as soon as they start becoming angry and saying, you must fix this, other people must, fix this for me, other people must solve the problem, it's like, no, screw you. I don't care. If someone says, I'm having issues, I'm having a problem, I need help, and it's if it's a cry for help, then okay. I will help you, and if you're grateful for my help, then sure. But as soon as you're just I deserve this, I'm entitled to this, I am feeling bad, and other people need to fix this, it's no, screw you. I do not care in the slightest. And honestly, it's nobody should care. And it's not I'm not just saying I don't care to say you should care that I don't care. I'm saying that when I say I don't care, a lot of people agree with me. I'm not saying most people. I'm not saying that makes it right. I'm just saying there's a significant number of people that agree with me when I say I don't care if you're emotional, if you're wrong. If you want to prove to me why you're right and why this is something to get outraged over, sure. But if you're just here to say I'm angry, I don't care. Neither do that many people. 20% U.S. households, 20% of, I think there should be an of there, tuned in to watch Ford describe what was probably the worst moment of her life when she said two boys laughed uproariously and turned up the music to drown out her screams while one tried to force himself upon her. Assuming she's telling the truth, sure. And honestly, I assumed she believed her own story. I didn't think it was true, but I assumed she believed her own story in the beginning. And then as I listened to more and more of her testimony, I honestly became less and less convinced and more convinced that she was probably lying. But again, I don't know. I've done plenty of videos on this already. I don't know. We can't say either way. And so what we especially cannot do is assume that what she's saying is what happened, because that doesn't work. Like, that doesn't work well that way. You have to assume innocence on, like, the accuser. It's up to the accuser to provide evidence, which he didn't do. And when it comes to innocent until proven guilty, people are like, yeah, this isn't a court of law, so that doesn't apply. It's like, what? I'm not just talking about the legal aspects. I'm talking about principled aspects. It's like, we're talking about the principled matter of it. It's like, if I walked into a job interview that you had and was just like, yeah, this person's a gang rapist, like, you're apparently not allowed to get upset now because this isn't a court of law? Like, we can assume that you were telling that I'm telling the truth and you're actually a gang rapist, even though I didn't provide any evidence, because it's not a court of law? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, women openly cried on the subway as they listened to the testimony on their headphones. I realized halfway through the hearing that my teeth were sore from clenching. Now, again, like, they're legitimately, like, I feel bad for a lot of these women because they're probably reliving past traumatic experiences. It's like, yes, I feel awful. Like, that's a bad, I literally cannot fathom how awful that must be to go through. That's genuinely a terrible thing. But then when people but when people start using that to push some kind of agenda and they get emotional about it and they say, you must do this for me because I'm feeling, it's entirely based off of emotions. And because they had that connection with Ford, they assume she's telling the truth. It's like, no, I'm sorry. You cannot do that. That's not how any of this works. Like, just because you felt bad, just because you felt that resurgence of traumatic experience, like, as awful as that is, if you're going to start jumping to conclusions and saying, start being passionate about something without actually looking at the data and without actually, like, taking this in a justified legal manner, sorry. Like, there's nothing anyone can do about that, and that's why people don't care. Because it's like, if you want to get angry and go out and punch some people or, like, pound on doors or start attacking, like, politicians, and again, I'm no fan of politicians, but if you're going to start attacking them, it's like, no, you're wrong. I'm sorry. You're wrong. Actually, no, I'm not sorry. But you're wrong. As a sexual assault survivor, I pictured myself sitting in front of a callous Senator Chuck Grassley and being grilled on live television by a female prosecutor he had hired because he didn't know how to talk to me. Well, that's a difficult thing to talk about. Like, the thing is, like, I applaud that they didn't just start asking her questions. They actually appointed someone that is an expert in this field. And, of course, the thing is to remember that, as Rachel Mitchell said, do you really think that asking a survivor questions in 5-minute increments is the best way to interview her? No, it's not at all. Like, it was absolute, like, it was just a total embarrassment. This was the worst way to go about anything. And there we go. And I thought about what it would feel like for my rapist to become a Supreme Court justice and to replace the swing vote on my most intimate rights. Again, you're saying they're rights, but I don't think they're rights. I don't think you've ever actually made the case that they are your rights. You've just assumed they are rights. Ford did the best she could under those circumstances and was, by nearly all accounts, extremely credible. The most cynical Republicans had to admit that they at least believed she had been assaulted. And yeah, honestly, it's like, she could have been assaulted, sure. Like, that, I don't doubt that. She may have been assaulted, but she has yet to provide any actual evidence. She has yet to say anything that says, yes, this definitely happened. She has yet to have any sort of proof that this happened. And that's the thing, like, that's what this is all about. She cannot prove it. And I'm not saying, like, I like, if it's true, then good. Like, if it's true, then I want her to provide evidence, and I want it to be well known, and I want this guy to not be appointed. But she has not provided any evidence. She's only provided testimony, unreliable testimony, because again, you can't rely on memory, especially 30-year-old memory. Even if it's traumatic, you can't rely on it. So it's like, I'm sorry, like. And when people start saying when people start saying if you disagree with her, if you wanted Kavanaugh, if you thought these allegations were not credible, then you must be a rape apologist. And it's like, no, that's when I have to say, no, you're wrong. Sorry, go away. It's just that no matter what she said or how credible she seemed, her story had no effect on their desire to confirm Brett Kavanaugh to the highest court in the land. Yes, because we know that people will falsely accused, and it's like, as awful as that is, that, like, people falsely accused out there, we have to take it by evidence. Like, it could be that she's falsely accusing Kavanaugh. It could be that she's telling the truth, but we have no way of figuring that out. We have no evidence, so at that point, we just have to assume that Kavanaugh is innocent because he is the one being accused. And the fact that they're not providing evidence of this, they're not even acknowledging that there's no evidence of this. It's like it's not that I'm denying it's not that I'm denying your story. It's not that I'm saying, oh, it doesn't matter if you were assaulted or not. No, that's not it at all. It's that, like, if that happened, great. I don't know who you are. Like, I need a story. I need evidence of some kind. Which is why apparently there's some kind of again, I've never experienced it, so I can't say for myself. There's some kind of reaction that people have when they're assaulted that makes them ashamed and embarrassed, and they don't want to come out about it. And now I don't know if that's societal. I imagine that's genetic and biological, that you feel shame from it and you don't want to tell people. But if there's physical evidence there, like a DNA test we can take of some kind, or if the bruises there are visible, like, if that's evident, if we have physical evidence, that is when you have to come forward, because then we can throw the guy in jail. Because that's the thing. Like, I want to get these people in prison as much as you do. But if you can't tell me it happened, then if you can't give evidence as to why it happened, then I'm sorry. That's the way the legal system works, and I'm glad that's the way the legal system works. You need evidence. The spectacle was a pointless charade. A woman annihilated herself before the country so that a handful of Republicans could pretend they cared what she had to say. And I don't like the psychology behind it. Like, oh, Republicans don't care what she had to say. Honestly, I don't care much what she has to say because there's no evidence. Like, as soon as she starts providing evidence, I care. Until then, I'm sorry. And so women let out a collective primal scream. And it's not even, a group of women. Not women as a demographic, not women as a gender, just a group of women. Because I know plenty of women, and I know plenty of sexual assault survivors that said that once the allegations came out, they were like, yeah, this is awful. I'm full Kavanaugh now. Like, full on, let's go. Let's nominate this guy, or let's confirm this guy. So it's definitely not a women's issue. Like, for the people saying this is a women's issue, like, that is absolutely horrible. Like, those are the people I legitimately dislike, because it's not a women's issue. There is absolutely zero case for being a women's issue, because women are divided on this thing, honestly. Like, the fact that they're saying it's a women's issue is horrible, in my opinion. Like, absolutely awful, because they're just throwing a demographic under the bus. They're just saying, like, oh, yeah, if you hate women if you disagree with us on this issue. No, that is moronic and very unethical. Women in their 50s, 60s, 70s began calling into C-SPAN. And yes, I watched the C-SPAN coverage. I heard that stuff. And as awful as those stories are, and I'm pretty sure they happened, again, it's like, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say it happened. But as soon as they start accusing someone and saying, like, actually, I want this person in prison, or I want something bad to happen to this person, like, okay, evidence, please. To announce to the world that they, too, had been sexually assaulted decades earlier, rape survivors angrily confronted politicians in elevators and hallways demanding to be heard. And there's the thing. Confronted politicians in hallways and elevators. It's like, what do you want them to do about it? Go to the police. File a case. If you're not going to the police, that is a bad sign. Because if you're going to the police, that means you have evidence. That means you're so sure that you're willing to, like, cause this whole thing and cause this whole investigation to make it happen. And that means you know you have evidence and you're willing to provide it. If you're just going to politicians, it's like, okay, why don't you go to the police? You don't have evidence? Okay, I have nothing to say. Like, that's it. And it's not that I'm rejecting assault survivors. It's that I'm rejecting people that I don't know if they're survivors or not. Like, again, as soon as you can provide evidence that you're a survivor, great. And obviously it was a family member. Like, if it's happened to a family member or a close friend, I'm not going to be like, where's the evidence? I'm going to be like, okay, this is probably true. But it's not because of lack of evidence. It's because I've known this person for decades. That's evidence that they're a good person. If I'm spending time with them, if I value their friendship, it means that they're a good person. It means that they're less likely to lie because I'm not friends with liars. There's my evidence right there that they're telling the truth. The sharing of stories became so convulsive, so casual, that a cab driver of mine, a woman from Trinidad, volunteered 2 minutes into a ride that she'd been raped twice by a diplomat. Yeah, that's awful. Like, evidence. Like, if you want to stop, if you want to throw these people in prison, evidence. Like, really. And the people that are out falsely accusing without evidence, like Ford, I'm slowly becoming increasingly convinced that she lied. And if she did lie, she is the one that is, like, anti-woman in this sense. She is the one that is hurting actual survivors, and it's not conservatives. I asked if she tried to report the assaults, and she laughed. Please, they don't even believe white women, she said. Why would they believe me? And there's another issue I have. It's like, they're spreading this story around that, like, oh, nobody's going to believe you. Nobody's going to believe you. And this Kavanaugh thing is just more proof that no one will believe you. Like, that's something you have to keep in mind. You don't deserve to be believed. You need evidence. Like, if you don't have anyone in your life that would believe you, if you don't have any close friends, like, I see people with all these stories saying, like, yeah, my family members, I told my family members, they did nothing. It's like, okay, these people are horrible, evil human beings if they're going to dismiss it right away and get them out of your life. Like, that's step one. If you realize that, like, if you're assaulted and you realize that nobody in your, like, none of your family or friends care, get those people out of your life. Because the thing is, either you're a liar, in which case, do them all a favor and get out of their lives, or you're telling the truth and they don't trust you, in which case get them out of your life. That's the thing. That is the thing. That's simply what it is. On Saturday, that's honestly the best way there. Like, that's the best way to stop assault, is just make sure you have people, like, evidence, and make sure you have people in your life that believe you. Because it's like, that's something about you. That's something that's partially your responsibility, is to, I get, like, if you're like a 10-year-old and, like, there's not much you can do about it. You're assaulted and you were 10 years old and the parents don't care. That is the, like, oh, that's just disgusting. It's absolutely, like, it's aggravating that there are people that have to go through that. But something you have to keep in mind is, as soon as that happens, like, as soon as if you're a young kid and you're assaulted, something horrible happens and your parents don't care, you know what you got to do? As soon as you get the chance, as soon as you get a chance to leave that house, as soon as you turn 18 or whatever age, get out, never talk to them again, confront them on it later in life and saying, why didn't you do anything about it? And get them out of your life. That's it. Like, that's how you change the conversation in society. You punish people, especially parents, that don't do anything about it. That's the thing. You just punish people with social ostracism. And the reason it's like, we're talking friendships here. We're not talking, again, like, when it comes to the whole Kavanaugh thing, like Ford versus Kavanaugh, we're talking, I know it's not a court of law, but we're talking about formal allegations made under, like, nobody knows who this person is, and the story is not very credible. I know people are saying it's credible. Like, the story makes sense originally, but there's all kinds of conflicting stories. She keeps changing her mind about a few things, and that's why we have to give the benefit of the doubt. But friendships are different, and that's where it matters, in friendships. Get people out of your life that won't believe you on that. And especially, like, yeah, as soon as it happens, as embarrassing and awful as it is, go to the police. If you have evidence, physical evidence preferably, go to the police. On Saturday, the Senate will likely confirm to the Supreme Court the kind of man many women have known or dated at some point in their lives. The wealthy, entitled frat boys who cries, shouts, and lies, and when you confront him with his behavior, because he has rarely had to face the consequence in his life, and that man will be deciding vote on major abortion cases, potentially blocking access to the procedure for generations for women. The weird thing is, they're assuming that he's, like, going to oppose Roe v. Wade. And honestly, like, I'm just making the guess now, he's probably not going to do it. He's probably not going to try to overturn Roe v. Wade. But if there's anything that's going to make him do it, it's this. If anything is pushed him further to the right, it's false allegations. It seemed as if something had changed since the 2016 election. Women got angry and they poured out their stories, and they mined their pain on social media, and they got up in politicians' faces and begged to be heard. Nationwide polls after Ford's testimony showed that more than half of U.S. women surveyed said they opposed Kavanaugh's nomination, and fewer than a third said they supported it. But, I mean, we're talking fewer than a third. They didn't give the actual numbers, which makes me think it's just below a third. So a third of women here disagree with you. That means it's not a women's issue. Republicans pretended to listen to them, Senator Jeff Flake. So, see, all I see here is complaining. As people saying, we want to be heard. We deserve to be heard. You need to do something about it. And that's what I don't like. Like, you need to do something. Someone needs to do something. Why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you doing something about it? Why don't you do something about it? Like, again, we got the women's shelters. You got do some actual, like, activism here. Do some, like, don't start complaining. Provide arguments. And honestly, the best thing you can do is just ignore the whole politics thing. As important as you think it is, and get down to the ground level. Like I said, like, if I had met someone in my life that said, yeah, I talked to my parents I just talked to them last week. I talked to them once a week. Yeah, when I was a kid, I was assaulted and they didn't believe me. And they, like, it's not even that they looked into it and they found out that you were mistaken. There was some traumatic memory that somehow got there that didn't actually exist. Like, your brain filled in something that, which is possible. There's tons of research that, like, shows that, yeah, your memory can actually just fill in blanks and kind of make up stuff like that. I'm not saying the people made it up. I'm saying your brain can be unreliable in that sense. But if your parents were just automatically dismissive and they're like, yeah, I just talked to my parents last week. We went out for lunch or something. I'm going to do my best to say, okay, get them out of your life. Stop talking to them. Or at the very least, first confront them on it. And if they're not incredibly apologetic and legitimately apologetic, you're not just dodging the question, then if they're legitimately apologetic, then sure, like, you can work from there. But if they're just dismissive, get them out of your life. That's the best thing you can do. Because there are people out there that, like, you tell them horrible things have happened and they're your close friends and they don't want to get involved, so they'll step back. It's like, okay, those people aren't your friends. Get actual friends in your life. Senator Jeff Flake called for a limited FBI investigation shortly after being confronted by sexual assault survivors in an elevator, and he and Senator Suzanne Collins made a show of being undecided up until the last minute. Yet, they already, like, they investigated him like 7 times. The FBI questioned Kavanaugh 7 times. And the reason, like, they can't do a full-blown FBI investigation is because what is there to investigate? Like, what's there to investigate? The FBI can't even figure out what happened a year ago with Stephen Paddock and the shooting in Vegas. They can't even figure that out, much less what happened 30 years ago. There's not much you can find. But ultimately, all of the parties unease with the Me Too movement coalesced around the figure of poor put upon rich white guy, Brett Kavanaugh. And that's another thing that's annoying. Oh, he's a rich white guy. Like, as if that somehow, like, means anything about anything in this situation. Which, if anything, all that does is show to me that they're not interested in the truth. They're not interested in, like, that. If anything, that makes me think that this person writing this article might actually put out a false allegation. And I'm not saying they did, because they said they're a survivor, and it's like, okay, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt in this case, until they start accusing people in a legal sense, and it's like, okay, then we need to look at the issues. We need evidence. But all I can say is, again, to this author, it's like, if you were assaulted and nobody cared, get those people out of your life. But the whole, like, oh, he's just this rich white guy, he's privileged, he's entitled, it doesn't matter if his life is destroyed. It's like, that makes me think that makes me increase the chance, like, that increases the likelihood for me that you're putting out false allegations, because you've already dismissed this guy, and you've dismissed any possible empathy you might have for this person because he's rich and white. It's like, okay, if you don't care about this person at all because he's rich and white, maybe you're willing to put out a false allegation. You've already said, like, the abortion debate is high, like, it's a women's issue, therefore, like, if this guy, I just see it as partisan nonsense and identity politics and crap like that. Somehow, Republican men assume the mantle of victimhood. Senate Majority Mitch McConnell decried the physical intimidation of members of Congress by women. Trump lamented that it's a scary time for young men, but that the young women are doing great. The government cupped its hands over women's mouth and turned the music up. No, they didn't. The government hasn't done anything wrong in this. Like, the government, I'm no fan of the government even remotely, and to quote, I forget who it was who said this, my ideal form of government is a guy with a pager. Government should not be, like, I absolutely despise about 95% of what the government does. But I don't even like Kavanaugh as a judge. There were so many people better than Kavanaugh. But in terms of these allegations, like, the side, I hate to just put it into, like, the two sides here, but the side that has been saying, like, the side that has been backing Ford 100% and attacking Kavanaugh, it's like they have been absolutely horrible in all this. Like, because and I've just noticed this now. I know I'm saying like too much, and I swear I'm trying to fix that. Every time I say it, it clicks into the back of my mind, and I'm like, that's something I got to work on. I'm working on it. But it's just every time they scream, every time they yell, every time they confront people in elevators, every time they attack someone in a restaurant, every time they do that, they lose more credibility, and I'm pretty sure that they'd be the people putting out false allegations. They destroy their own credibility, because like this article destroys credibility for survivors of assault, because they've shown they don't care about the truth. It's all politics. They don't care about the truth. They just said, hey, this woman put forth her story that had a lot of issues with it without evidence, and if you disagree with her, you're a rape apologist. It's like, okay, you're not looking at this objectively. You are not looking at this story objectively, therefore I cannot trust what you're saying. If you're not looking at this objectively, you're probably wrong. That's how I base my like views on. That's how I judge people on what they're saying. If they make a genuine case for it, if they argue passionately and truthfully, this is what we must do. Here's why. Here's my arguments. And if you disagree with me, like either provide a rebuttal to what I'm saying, like, please, I might be wrong, like, I want to hear your arguments as well. I don't just want to talk, I don't just want to scream, I want to hear what you're saying as well. And I'm not saying, like, that if someone is like, has put up the blinds and won't listen to what you're saying, that they're somehow not a bad person. Like, if someone's just putting up their blinds, not listening to anything, sure. But these people are not interested in having a conversation. They're interested in yelling. Like right here, it said, it's not, we tried to have a conversation. We tried to convince you. We tried to, like, convince you. It's no, we screamed and you didn't listen. We screamed and you said nothing. That's the problem there. You screamed, and it's like, okay, I don't care that you screamed. Scream all you want. I don't care. I'm gonna close the window or whatever. I'm gonna put up a barrier. I don't care, because if all you're doing is screaming, you're not interested in truth, you're not interested in figuring things out, you're not interested in being genuine, you're just complaining. In that sense, okay. You're just complaining, I don't care. I knew people like that. I don't talk to them anymore. I knew people that were entirely emotion. They were like, you don't care about me, listen to what I'm saying. Like, I listened to them, and there was all emotion. And it was like, you know what? They tried backstabbing me later on, and I cut them out of my life. That's what I did. That's what women need to do if they're assaulted. And if they were legitimately insulted and their close friends didn't believe them, you have to question your friendships. You have to question, like, why you trusted them as a friend. You have to get them out of your life and get new friends. Because there are people out there that care. There are people out there that, like, you have to earn people's trust over time. And those are the people you want to surround yourself with. Because the nice thing I know, if something awful happened to me and there was no way for me to prove it, I could go to, like, 20 people and they'd be like, yes, we believe you entirely. Because they know I'm reliable. They know I don't lie. And it's like, there it was again. I'll try to stop saying that. But, there's another thing. But, I should stop that. But with it happening, it's all down to, like, I don't care if you're screaming. And I'm trying to help these people here. Like, put up some arguments, I'll listen. Have a genuine conversation, I'll listen. I'll provide rebuttals. You got to have arguments against my rebuttals. But that's what I want. If you're going to start screaming, I'm going to say, okay, these people aren't interested in truth. These people are just emotional. They're not looking at things objectively. I can dismiss them. But that's what's going on. Wow, this went on for half an hour. Holy crap. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. That's the thing. I will not deny. Like, I am not denying Survivor. Like the whole Believe Survivors thing. I'm not denying what you're saying. The problem with Believe Survivors is it automatically assumes that they're telling the truth. It assumes the thing. And I hope I've made this... I'm trying to drag this out when I shouldn't. I hope I'm making this clear about the difference between making an accusation in public, under oath, and telling your friends about it. Because if you're doing it under oath in public, most people don't know who you are. They don't know anything about you. Therefore, you need to provide some sort of evidence. The nice thing is, if you have close friends around you, you've built up trust over the years. You've built up a lot of trust, which means that the burden of proof is a lot lower because, okay, this person's never lied to me before. This person's never done me wrong. They've always cared about what they had to say. They're a very genuine person. They've fought for people. They've done great things. Okay, the burden of proof is now much lower because if they were to be lying about an allegation, that goes against everything we know about them in the past. That goes against their personality or everything we know about them. So that you've built up that trust. I hope that I've clarified the differentiation there. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Hopefully this is my last video on Kavanaugh. I didn't want to get into the first place. I think this is my 4th or 5th on it. Hopefully I've made everything clear. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm genuinely interested to hear what you have to say. Like the video if you enjoyed. If you thought I was spot on, maybe share this video around. I'm trying to grow the channel, hopefully. We recently hit 100 subscribers, and I'm going to do something for that. I don't know what yet. I don't know exactly what yet, but I'm planning something. I'm thinking it through. But thanks for watching.